How's it going, bookworms, filmsters? I'm Katana. Welcome back to another BBM. And no, this is not late. What are you talking about? Are you crazy? Am I crazy? I mean, this is right on time. This is where it needs to be. Ever heard of a winter horror? No? Well, you're gonna learn something new. But first, I have an announcement. After 3 years of doing this solo, I finally realized that my time is more limited than ever thanks to a new job I have and funding this channel. So I decided to go on the internet and find myself a new editor. Say hello, T-Cam.
Hello, T-Cam.
Oh, come on, you know what I mean.
I don't know anything. I mean, I'm a teenage girl living a Barbie world life. It's plastic. It's fantastic.
1 out of 4 of those things are right. But you'll get to know them. Don't worry, trust me. Time will pass and you'll get to know.
You see, I have anxiety, and seeing as you have like a few hundred people seeing this video, yeah.
One step at a time. Anyways, here's a new review. Today we're exploring the massacre that happened in Chamberlain, Maine. Countless lives taken, the destruction of a whole town, and it all started with a period. Carrie by Stephen King. Let's read. 16-year-old Carrie White is the butt of every joke. Since elementary school, she's always been the punching bag, a victim to every prank the other kids throw at her. And there's not much support from home either when she's the daughter of a very religious mother. Raised with physical abuse and mental torment, Carrie is made out to be more of a freak alongside her mother. And what tops all of this? She's telekinetic. A telekinetic teenage girl. Such an outrageous premise that even King himself wasn't convinced at the time. If it wasn't for his wife, Carrie might have never existed. But it does. And it was the one that started his career. Now, when talking about characters, let me tell you right now, they're pretty stereotypical. I mean, it was written in 1974, the origins of high school stereotypes. But that doesn't mean they're boring. Carrie White is our bully protagonist. Most people who know the story of Carrie will instantly remember 2 things: the shower scene and prom night. There's nothing more you need to know about Carrie other than the evidence of bullying and her thoughts on revenge. Yes, the book reveals a lot of Carrie's inner thoughts, and most of them are pent-up anger ready to be unleashed on everyone who's done her wrong. But that's for later. Margaret White is Carrie's mother, who lives and breathes the Lord's work. Can you call her a fanatic? Prophet? She's dedicated to this life, and just about anything that isn't Christian friendly is asking for full damnation. But on one night with her drunk husband, she embraced the sweet pleasure of intercourse and accepted her punishment of raising the child. She verbally, physically, and mentally whipped her extreme beliefs on Carrie, aiding in this social awkwardness. Add this to the TK gene, which is the book's fictional way of making telekinesis a rare genetic mutation, and you got a pretty screwed up childhood in your hands. But there are some decent people in the story. Sue Snell is one of the few girls who actually feels bad for tormenting Carrie. And I don't necessarily believe it was for the sake of Carrie, but because she needed to clear a guilty conscience. To not feel like a hypocrite or fall under that cliche about girls who go on with their lives being popular and free of consequences. Her reasons are mostly personal, but it does move the plot forward when she tells her boyfriend Tommy Ross to ask Carrie to prom. We also have Miss Desjardins, the gym teacher. She's just doing her job and making sure no one gets hurt. So when she finds Carrie cowering in the shower from all the other girls, she steps in and protects her. The kind of mother Carrie should have had. Punishing the other girls, making Carrie feel like part of the group, Miss Desjardins is the real MVP of this novel. But then there's Chris Hartigan, one of the popular girls who really gives Carrie the worst, just for the fact that she's lame and is asking for it. So when she hears the news that Tommy Ross is asking Carrie to prom, she cooks up something sinister with her greaser boyfriend, Billy Nolan, who's just a straight up psycho. But I'd be lying if I said they weren't perfect for each other. So those are our main characters, but what you really came to hear about is the writing King offers to us. He's known for a reason. This is my first book of his that I'm reading, and I understand now. The man knows his way around creating these scenes that get under the skin, details that get raunchy and personal for your own good, word descriptions so vivid and sharp that emphasize the element of horror, dirty sex scenes, sentences that derail from a normal thought, and a whole lot of flex. There's the one scene where Billy and friends take a trip to the farm for pig blood, which started to define that dangerous side of his. Once he brought that sledgehammer down, there was no turning back. And not to get ahead of myself, but the fatal incident at prom was well constructed, as the book spent small moments showcasing Carrie's power, slowly growing until it was finally time to unleash her rage. All in all, King did a great job bringing suspense and thrills through his words. And this story also has this weird choice of narration, but it does not make it less interesting. It was interesting to have not only the initial story from Carrie's perspective, but also these fictional articles and interviews acting as breaks in between chapters, because this book doesn't have official chapter breaks. With these breaks, we learn more about the TK gene, a look into Carrie's childhood, and impressions from other people about the prom night incident. I will admit that I wasn't too fond of the foreshadowing that basically tells us who dies and doesn't die, but that's a small nitpick. King found a way to make the situation much bigger than the school prank gone wrong. This incident affected the entire town, and we can witness the actual consequences from this. Obviously, this is a very dated book set in the 70s, about a teenage girl with psychic powers. As long as you're not taking this too seriously, it's an incredibly fun read. The entire story feels like a what-if situation, and that's kind of what makes it interesting. How would it look if a bully girl suddenly discovered her mind-bending powers? How would it look in 2018? Probably the same way, maybe, I don't know. Either way, I really enjoyed my time reading one of King's earlier works, and can't wait to see how his stories evolved with time, because this was a solid one for me. And those are my thoughts on the book portion. Not quite a scary premise, but word choices are definitely unsettling. Now, it's time for a three-way.
Hot. I mean pervert.
Let me rephrase that. Alongside with the book, we'll be exploring both old and new. The 1976 version starring Sissy Spacek, with the 2013 remake starring Chloe Grace Moretz. Who will come out on top?
And who is the bottom bitch? Place your bets now.
Now you're getting it! Sit back and relax as we explore this three-way battle with both movie versions of Stephen King's Carrie. So, 2/3 of our stories begin the right way with the shower scene. The original added a little more by starting with the volleyball game to exemplify that light morning sweat Mr. King described and how Carrie fitted in with the other girls. The remake, however, rewinds all the way back to the birth of Carrie White. This pretty little picture came from a fictional excerpt from a book called The Shadow Exploded, in which it describes the night Margaret White had an in-home birth. Screaming in pain, she was alone the whole time. Reasons being that either the neighbors thought it was holy chanting, or they just flat out didn't like her. And the book made her so devoted to the Lord that she didn't even think she was pregnant, called it a cancer in the womanly parts. In terms of keeping with the tension and suspense, I'm not opposed to this scene. Gives a good idea about the mother in a few lines, as well as her conflictions to keeping the baby or not. And this is supposed to be a scary movie, so starting with a bloody pregnancy makes quite the right impression. So, shower scene time? Not yet. First, we have to go through the remix version of the volleyball scene taking place in the pool, which makes sense. I mean, volleyball has been disbanded since the 1980s, and they're bringing it back Marco Polo style. And there's only one line about volleyball in the book, so this is just modifying the scene from the original, making Carrie even more of an outcast and displaying her terrible serves. Finally, we reached the shower scene. I know it, you know it, but what I didn't know is how peaceful this was in the original. Not just a snippet of every guy's perverted fantasy, but what a way to ruin this moment's tranquility with a little blood slipping out of nowhere. Well, of course from somewhere, but Carrie doesn't know it, and the rest of the girls use this chance to tease her about it. The remake follows the same pattern but doesn't really convey the same feeling. Watching the original, based on how she was surrounded, she looked like some feral child being cornered by people set out with the intent to traumatize. In the remake, it's the same except with a cell phone for later use. You know what? I take it back. The remake does have some terrifying elements. Just someone out there waiting with a video camera to screw your entire life? That's scary. It isn't long before Miss Desjardins comes in to stop the hysterics. The remake's Desjardins is a lot more passive than the originals, who was physically trying to stop the girls from being assholes. But at least they both give her the slap. With the remake almost stopping the start of chaos, now something could be done about those damn school lights. So after she gets cleaned up, Carrie's taken to meet with the assistant principal, Mr. Morton. He's trying to just get her out of the school, while the remake is actually making an effort trying to collect some names. But each one has a different sign. The original is a lot closer to the book when Mr. Morton keeps getting Carrie's name wrong and angering her to the point of flipping an ashtray off the table. That seems a little practical considering that even an authority figure can't bother with her. In the remake, Mr. Morton needs to inform Carrie's mother about this, which spooks the hell out of her. Oh, don't mind that. I mean, the water cooler was about to crack any day now. Nothing out of the ordinary. Now it's time to showcase the relationship with the mother. The remake gave a little glimpse at the beginning, but now grown up, Carrie is terrified of her mother and the idea of being alone with her. But what the original does is not rely solely on the appearance of terror, but on her behavior. She gives Sue's mom a visit trying to spout the word of God, but is given donation instead of attention. And when she returns home and gets a phone call from the school, she starts to reprimand Carrie like in the book. A hard whack in the face and more words from the Bible. And the performances from both these ladies are fantastic. The way Piper Laurie is forcing her words on Carrie, and the fear Spacek is showing, not to mention the camera panning when Margaret is dragging Carrie by the hair into her praying closet. The remake doesn't even hold a candle to these confrontations. Same chunk of dialogue from the book, but lackluster emotion to back it up. Just a bonk on the head and pushing her in the closet. But neither tops the book's depiction of Mama White continuing to recite her savior's words while ignoring Carrie's cries and trying to reform her daughter on the spot. Plus, in terms of the closet itself, the book gives a real sinister feel of showing Yahweh damning everyone. The original comes in as a close second with a really disturbing look of Jesus at the cross with arrows piercing his body. And then the remake looks like Harry Potter's room with some pictures and CGI blood. How does that even work? Is Mama White just squirting fake blood through a tube? Like my old Halloween Scream mask? Anyways, Carrie eventually gives in and does her praying and goes to bed with complete obedience. Looks like some time in the box did her some good. Meanwhile, in the back of a car, Sue Snell is getting her freak on with Tommy Ross until her conscience gets her mind occupied about Carrie White and what she did. Really shows the comparison when the scene shifts over to Chris's side of the night acting like a real loon. And with the presence of the internet, things are made a lot harder for Carrie when Chris decides to upload the tampon video to YouTube. I bet you Chris is the kind of person who puts ads every 5 seconds on their videos. She just seems like the type. Also, the original just cuts right into the next day. The remake spent so long covering other characters' point of view, I actually forgot Carrie was still trapped in that closet. Also, I don't condone to this music choice. The original stayed consistent on keeping it peaceful yet eerie, but here, it's telling me something different. I guess you could say it's a little more tame, which I can agree with. But the remake keeps us on track with Miss Desjardins grilling the girls about what they've done to Carrie White, and the punishment that follows.
You're not going to prom.
It's not that I think Judy Greer is a bad actor, but the fact that I've seen her in other roles that were more pleasant and mom-like, it's hard to imagine her being tough. She's got that kind of passive voice that doesn't come off as authoritative. Miss Desjardins in the original played it more like the woman from the book, really giving shit to the girls and acting like a tough but fair gym teacher. But I will give both movies this. Chris actually shows up, unlike the book. And the original made a fun montage out of this, with the music being livid at first, but dying down to show the point of exhaustion, and the peak of some people's breaking points.
Fuck you!
Chris, you had like 10 more minutes to just do a couple more push-ups, like, what the hell? Let's spend some time in English class. Key difference is that the remake is making Carrie read a poem while Tommy Ross is reading one in the original. Funny how Carrie still gets roasted in both. Understandable in the remake since they're making fun of her dark poetry, but having to laugh at the comments she made on Tommy's poem is just ridiculous. Like, who does that? Luckily, we see Tommy's nice side.
You suck.
What was that? What seriously? What was that? TCam, play it back. Yeah, scene's not over, pal. I mean, now you're just like the rest of them. You outed yourself. Meanwhile, remake Carrie is arriving at school, breaking property, getting the idea to learn more about her wicked powers. This portion wasn't part of the book, but gives a good explanation on how Carrie can have control over her powers, rather than just saying she can. And the original gives some credit to some of the fake-sided references in the book. The remake makes a quick cut to Carrie's mom working at the cleaners. There's nothing new here except to show you how she is with other people. And even then, it was done much better in the original. It's true that the remake showed where she worked, but the original explored more on her devotion to God. And here, the only memorable thing is a good shot of her getting angry for the sake of being creepy. Also, the remake actually shows the moment from the book where Chris's lawyer dad shows up to talk about the way Miss Desjardins talked to her.
You're right, Daddy. That's what she said. Shitty.
If anything, the book in the original version had more reason for a parent conference. But since this is a world of modern technology and cyberbullying, the remake really dug a grave for Chris.
Well, I believe that there is a video of the incident. And I think your daughter's the one who took it.
So knowing that she's guilty, Chris refuses to give up her phone and is officially out of prom. Then she goes off to complain about that meeting with the people who didn't have her back earlier, especially Sue. And Chris is speaking some truth from the book, emphasizing her thoughts about Carrie White asking for this kind of treatment and Sue not caring at all.
You don't give a shit about Carrie White. And everybody knows it.
She's not wrong. I mean, to some degree, Sue just wanted to clear her conscience. So Sue does the only thing she can think of to make this all right for herself, having Tommy Ross take Carrie to prom. I think the book's Tommy had the most reasonable reaction to this proposal. The original just cuts right into him saying yes, but by making it seem like it took the whole day to come to that conclusion. The remake's Tommy puts up a bit of a struggle, but whatever Sue wants, Sue gets. Then comes the actual proposal, in which both Tommies fail to get Carrie's attention. The remake's Tommy pounces her at the cafeteria with everyone staring and giving her the idea that this is some big joke, which is understandable. The original's Tommy sneaks up on her in the library, but it's the same reaction.
Carrie, let...
The book made it much easier by her saying yes so quickly, but props to the movies making this a little bit more challenging. These moments between Carrie and Miss Desjardins are tied to the movie, and both have their charming qualities, though more connected with the original because the actress can flip between being a strong feminine presence and controlling her students, while also being able to aid them in their problems. Judy Greer just has that kind of quality in whatever role she plays, so it wasn't much of a surprise, but both portrayals of Carrie are strong and do show a sense of vulnerability. So after she heals Carrie's sensitive heart, she goes busting balls at Tommy and Sue, thinking that this might be another trick. And this one goes to the original because the remake is, well, a remake, a condensed rushed version of this particular scene in the original. And the original had more of a struggle to continue with this plan.
No.
Yeesh, Tommy can't catch a break in both timelines. So both Tommies make their last effort by meeting Carrie at her place. She's nervous about her mom figuring out, so she eventually says yes. But again, I'd had to go with the original. In the remake, Carrie catches Tommy coming out of the car, but the original Tommy just goes straight for the door with the crazy nut in the other room. The pressure's even more real for that yes. But in all three cases, Carrie White is going to prom. And this concludes part 1, just like in the book. How badly can this night turn out? Because at this point, we're way past decent. We'll figure out the rest after break.
We're going on a break already?
Yes, TCAM, we are going on break. And make sure to cut it off after I walk off and not mid. Alright, and we're back. We have finished the first half, now let's see what the second half unfolds.
Everyone knows already, Katana.
You can't possibly know that.
We're not dumb, you dumb. Please don't fire me.
What? I didn't call anyone You know what? Never mind. Let's just see how the chaos unfolds. No spoilers!
Aw.
At this point in the story, news is already going around about Tommy Ross asking Carrie to the dance, and while some are ecstatic about the idea, others are downright pissed. Let's start with the mother. In the remake, Carrie's mom is waiting outside because apparently this window shopping took up the whole day, and they start discussing her prom date with Tommy. And again, this was done better in the other two sources. Can it be over dramatic at times? Yes. But this is supposed to be a movie, not a read-along. Actions can do wonders, even little things like throwing tea in someone's face. But this part's my favorite. I don't know why that looks so out of place, but it's super funny. And I'd side with the remake's effects resembling more with the book, like suspending her mother in midair. I know the original done its best with closing all the doors and windows simultaneously, but the top house jumping? There's just no way. From this, Carrie starts calling the shots and proceeds to continue with this fantasy without Mama's support. And I don't think we met Billy Nolan in the original, which is a treat in itself. A young John Flippin' Travolta. The Billy from the book was kind of a brute who followed Chris's orders, but I don't mind it when it's played by this man who's just having fun with his role. His charisma is so overflowing, 3 different cars drive by for a small chat. Well, 2 out of 3.
Oh shit.
But he still got that smile. Also, can we agree that this is the best reaction to an almost car crash in cinematic history? But back to the story, Chris uses her sexuality to get a favor out of Billy, which involves a midnight visit to a pig farm. Chris was absent on the trip in the book, but the movies decided that she should probably be there for her psychotic boyfriend. The book has some very descriptive details for this scene which work to flavor the awful deed, but the movie just gets right to the point of Billy bashing in some pig heads while Chris cheers him on. In the remake, it makes Chris look like she had absolutely nothing to do with this plan, which is bull hockey. She's not that innocent movie. And that's another thing, the dynamic of this relationship. It's pretty evident in both the book and the original that Chris and Billy were made for one another, but the remake is giving us a scenario that she's not exactly sure about this whole thing, leaving Billy to be the only enemy. I get the reason for doing it. We live in a different time now, more different than how relationships were seen before. But now the preparations are being set. Carrie White is working on her outfit, Sue is trying to finish with the decorations when she's not throwing up, and Chris and Billy are setting up the prank of a lifetime. Even with a minute or two, the best chemistry is shown when looking at them side by side.
And I'll let you pull the rope when the time comes.
I plan to.
I know.
When the time comes, I'll let you pull the rope, okay?
Oh, I plan on it.
The original takes it one scene further by including how Chris got a hold of taking over the ballot count. In the book, she did it herself, but she got a friend of Billy's to handle it in the original. And it ends with a montage of guys and gals getting ready for prom, including this funny ass bit of the guys looking for a tux.
Look, you gotta rent yourself a tuxedo for the prom.
I know, I only got $10 though.
$10? You can rent yourself a tuxedo. You don't have to look great.
Shirt tux. Classic. Prom night has finally arrived and Carrie's looking stunning. Of course, Mama White isn't liking the dress or Carrie's dirty pillows out in the open and makes the suggestion to burn the dress and pray together. When Tommy eventually arrives, Mama Carrie's doing everything she can to stop this until Carrie sends her flying into the closet. How could she have done that? I mean, telekinesis and mental burning are 2 different things. Like, there's no way she could have done it, right? Where are the physics in this? In the original, I'm actually surprised it wasn't taken further. Same scenario with Mama White trying to worry Carrie even more than she probably is, and when her mom starts getting hysterical and hurts herself, Carrie just keeps her locked on the bed. And that's it. Kind of like how you slap a hysterical person and the world just freezes in place. But with both moms dealt with, Carrie meets with Tommy at the door and the two head off to prom. Remake Carrie is feeling a bit nervous and it's up to Tommy to calm her nerves. Both movies actually did a better job than the book because they didn't indirectly call her ugly. But the original Tommy sounded the most sincere.
They're a good crowd, really.
Now both walks into Prom start with some copyrighted music, so I hope TCAM can find the right alternative, but this comparison is a classic nostalgia versus update, and I'll always side with the one that actually represented the overall feel of the book. It might have been cool if the remake did a retro theme, but this is alright too, nothing too hard to judge. So, following the remake, after the two get settled and think about dancing, Miss Desjardins decides to come over and see how the date is going for Carrie, while Tommy is letting Sue know via text that everything is going great. The original Sue doesn't have that kind of privilege, so she decides to leave her home and check the prom herself. In the book, she had a sneaky suspicion of Tommy actually falling in love with Carrie. But I do like the chat Miss Desjardins shares with Carrie in the original. Not just that she tells her own prom story like in the book, but the music has been pretty on point this entire journey. From sound effects to original themes, the background is not dull to listen to.
You'll never forget it. I don't think I will.
Trust me, after a ton of parodies, musicals, and even remakes, nobody forgot this night either. Miss Desjardins leaves and Tommy comes back trying to sweeten this night even more by inviting Carrie outside school property.
What I was gonna say is that if you'd like to, we could stop in at the Beehive for a couple minutes.
The remake's Tommy didn't even finish and just brings her right into the dance floor, which I'm sorry to say, but the original completely dominates this scene. Even in the book, they didn't dance at all. Tommy acted like the perfect gentleman. But with the original, the music's romantic, the glow of the light is just right, the camera angle is perfectly framed, and then there's this. But then as they're talking, the cameraman just decides to sit on the swivel chair because it keeps spinning and kind of destroys the feeling of a slow song. Now, I'm just dizzy. Meanwhile, in the remake, Mama White is clawing her way out of the closet because you can't keep a good woman down. And before you know it, ballots. Carrie's a little scared seeing her own name being nominated, but Tommy teases her about standing on the throne and being acknowledged by her peers, so she goes along with it. Chris and Billy stand idly by on top of the stage, getting ready for the prank. And Chris oh my god. From what I've seen so far, phones have been really screwing people over. I mean, why even tell her about it? Was this really the only way to get her out of the house? Really? With the original, Tommy is grinning his way to Carrie's vote and convinces her that it will be fun to at least try and be prom king and queen. Also, we get a scene with Mama White showing off her excellent psychotic cooking skills, starting with the carrots. And instead, on top of the stage, Chris and Billy are hanging below with the string ready to be pulled. So by now, you get the idea that those in on the prank are collecting ballots and then sabotaging the box with fabricated votes. In the book, for a miracle moment, the results came in as a tie, but the remake's Discount Cisco announces Tommy and Carrie as prom king and queen. She embraces her walk to the stage with glee, as well as the other stuff going on like Sue looking for Chris, and Chris getting ready to unload her pig blood. The original, however, it's on a whole other level. The orchestra's going off, capturing the right tone for Carrie's enjoyment and Chris's torment. Sue is pretty oblivious and just enjoys the fact that Carrie is having her moment. This is her prom. A nice calm before the storm. Since text messages weren't a thing, Sue found out by the way her hand felt the tugging of the string. She follows it back to Chris and Billy under the stairs, but Miss Desjardins pulls her away. It feels weird seeing this all go down in the front row, and neither Carrie or Tommy, especially Tommy, reacts about what the hell is going on. But things could have been done easier in the remake. She had a phone. She could have tried to pull it out and show Miss Desjardins the text Chris herself sent. But hey, we gotta follow the scene to perfection, leading to the grim moment we've all been waiting for. Oh man! Can we see that in a different angle? How about another one? You know what? Let's just go back to the original. Now what's interesting is what made them laugh. In the book, the bucket that fell on Tommy's head afterwards made the funniest sound that even Miss Desjardins couldn't help herself. The original starts with Norma but follows with the bucket named Tommy, which Carrie starts associating those laughs on herself. The remake not only drops the blood but also plays the shower video again, having Chris's friends join in on the laughter. Mrs. Jordan tries to help, but Carrie is beyond that point. The bucket falls on Tommy and it stops becoming a laughing matter. Oh shit. Carrie White has been unleashed, and let me tell you right now, these two scenes are better because the book goes through several different perspectives before the one we actually care about. And even though it's modernized, the effects of Carrie's torment is alright. At some parts you can see how heavily it relies on the CGI, like when she blows everyone away and they all look like dolls falling backwards. And some of the deaths were interesting, like crushing one guy in the bleachers, having the twins trample to death, and whipping one girl with wires. But she's going too far with Mrs. Jordan. Come on, Carrie. There you go. In the original, she traps all the students like farm animals, dims the light to a hellish red, and controls a fire hose to water them down hard. And the difference with the remake is the lack of hand movements. Like a muscle as the book described, Carrie stands there watching it all go down, causing her mind to electrocute, destroy, and burn the place to the ground. Look how nonchalant she's walking down the row of dead bodies and screaming victims, acting like this is all completely okay. Just seeing someone who's okay with the murder of an entire student body is terrifying. After the school is done, Carrie starts looking for Chris and Billy, who escaped the scene. In the book, this was near the end of Carrie's rampage, but let it be known that no one can escape Carrie. With her powers, she stops the car from running away.
Run her down. Kill her.
And just like that, a Mortal Kombat finisher for Billy. Chris is the only one left alive trying to run down Carrie, but she's lifted into the air and forced into gas pump number 4, ending with an explosion. The original doesn't even spend a minute on them. She's like, flex! And flips the car into an explosion. End of story. But there's still one person left to meet with. Starting with the remake, Carrie comes back home to her mama, covered in thick blood. It becomes a bit of a suspense thriller with Mama White creeping about as her daughter is in complete distraught. Carrie decides to take a bath and cleanse herself from the humiliation. In the original, she comes back home to the place lit with candles, and the mood just comes back to a peaceful setting. Well, until you spot Mama hiding behind the door. So Carrie cleans herself good, and Mama White finally reveals her hiding spot to tell the story of how her husband decided to put a baby in her.
I'll smell the whiskey on his breath.
After that wild talk, Mama White puts Carrie in a false sense of security, enough time to jam a knife right in her back. Now, I'm going to analyze all three endings carefully because they're very different from one another. Starting with the original, Carrie is stabbed by her mother and rolls down the stairs. She tries crawling away while her mother is happily excited to kill. She doesn't get close though when Carrie decides to crucify her mother with knives and other sharp objects, looking like she'd be back in 3 days. Carrie herself can't believe what she's done and gets too out of control that the house starts falling apart by rocks. This moment in particular happened in the book as part of her childhood when she was younger and snapped at Mama, but adding this to the finale is alright too. We take one look at the crucified Jesus before the house is completely swallowed up. Days pass and Sue is at home suffering from the trauma that Carrie has caused on prom night. Sue is dreaming about visiting Carrie's grave, giving a really good jump scare. In the book, Carrie kills her mom by mentally squeezing her heart. And near the end, Sue confronts Carrie with both of them having to talk through the mind. And Carrie, suffering from a cardiac arrest, eventually dies. The remake is just a funhouse. Carrie is stabbed and punishes her mother with her powers. They struggle for a bit on the kitchen floor until Carrie makes the ultimate move and crucifies her mother like in the original. She then feels bad and pulls her from the wall, trying to comfort Mama on her last breath. But this moment is interrupted by Sue walking through the front door trying to talk Carrie down, even though all the bad stuff happened already. But nothing can talk down the immense power Carrie unleashed with the rocks plummeting. But it gets even crazier.
It's a girl. What? I don't know.
Sue is pregnant. Probably to make the last page of the book more relevant to the characters we've come to know and hate. Carrie saves Sue and her baby from being sucked into the ground with the rest of the house. She caresses her mother one last time before they are both sent to hell. Days pass and Sue is visiting Carrie at an actual graveyard, not her sinkhole of a house. And you know what? It started with a pregnancy, it ends with a pregnancy. But apparently it was all a dream. God damn it, just end the movie on that still frame of Carrie holding Sue's baby. And there you have it, Stephen King's Carrie compared to all the movies.
What about the 2002 version?
I didn't even know that existed.
And then there's also the musical.
Yeah, well, you know, that's more like...
And then there's just cool performances, and there's a sequel showing Carrie's younger half sister, and there's a riveter.
Okay, well, can we just compare these two first? How about we do movie versus movie? The original with the old. And although there was some stuff that the remake did well, like modernizing the classic story, it was still unnecessary. And doing this whole comparison really didn't help anyone in the end. So I have to go with the original. The only point I can make about the two movies is how their performances differ in strength. I've gone through several examples throughout the review, but just to put my final statements, the original just had more character. Sure, the remake followed the book's dialogue perfectly and had the technology to bring about some interesting visuals, which weren't bad at all, but I can't say it was the most entertaining watch when compared to the original. Piper Laurie, John Travolta, William Catt, they all put on some outrageous performances, but they matched well with the goofy premise this story was already known for. I'm not trying to throw shade at either Chloe or Sissy, both are gorgeous ladies, but when talking about the actress who I felt had the biggest transformation from beginning to end, Spacek gave off an outcast vibe with her nonverbal behavior and general appearance. Chloe still looked pretty even before Prom, and didn't stand out as much as the other kids. She was ridiculed because of the fact that her role was Carrie White, but I couldn't believe it. And that's one way to summarize the remake. It's all glamorized to fit in today's generation, but it doesn't bring anything new to the table. Most of what I saw here, I saw in the original, and I prefer the original because the setting and tone matched the story. I'll give the remake for its effects and that one creepy still frame at the end, but the original is still rewatchable, even after 40 plus years. So the remake's out, leaving us with the 1976 version and the book itself. And even though I was just praising the original a second ago due to its characters and campy natures, I can't deny the book for its horrifying elements and the fact that it screams the 70s. I have to declare the book on this one. Both movies are good adaptations to the book. For the most part, they followed the events of the story correctly, with each adding their own style to a particular scene. But the book still had enough details to bring a shiver down your spine. As ridiculous as the story might have been, it was King's writing that gave me uncomfortable feelings, and that's the part that I won't forget. His description of a date between Chris and Billy, his pacing on Carrie's descent into psychotic madness, and the articles giving a little more substance to the story and background to both characters and settings. Overall, this all just comes down to levels of enjoyment, which I found with the book more. But that doesn't mean the others are inferior. The movies are great, the musical is an interesting media but gives the story a fresh take. Just give each one a try and see which bloody psychic girl works for you. With that said, those are my final thoughts on Carrie. And if you don't agree, you can read the book, watch the movies, and make your own opinions. I'm Katana, and let's give another round of applause for T-Cam. I'll see you all in the next review. Play me out, T-Cam. Just want to give a quick thanks to my Patreon supporters, including our newest member, Racco. If you're interested in seeing these reviews 3 days before their initial release, check out my Patreon page and become a member today. Anyways, thank you all for watching today's review. If you haven't already, subscribe and ring that notification bell to stay updated on the latest reviews. You can also follow my Twitter and Facebook as well. Thought this movie was a little too much to handle? Well, why not check out my last review on Divergent, where you can just feel my soul leaving my body. Seriously, it was a terrible time and a long suffering. Got a book/movie review you'd like to see me do one day? Just leave a suggestion in the comments down below and I'll be sure to check it out. I guess there's nothing left to do but check out all the Carrie musicals. Got to start a new list on which one is the best. If you got any suggestions where to start, just give me a holler. Either that or I just might check out High School Musical and call it a night. Anyways, later guys. Finally we reached the sour scene. It was quite bitter in my opinion, but never mind that. Finally we reached the sour. Why am I saying sour?